I would say that I am a depth stimulator, a possibility igniter, a authentic unmasker of humanity, and a transformational leader. Before I did coaching, I got into the telecom world, the startup world out in Boulder, Colorado, and just felt that was where I was supposed to be and saw some opportunity. And like, that was amazing. But then I got to the end of that because the guy that I was in business with at that point in time actually passed away. And I found myself by circumstance going, okay, well, now what next? And I had a buddy who called me and he said, hey, come out to Los Angeles. Like I haven't seen you in a while. Like I'm taking you into a recording studio in LA. Like you can't be starstruck. You got to be cool, all this kind of stuff. And he brought me in and I got to tell you, man, I walked into that studio and I felt like God visited me. And I got this click because I'd always been doing music as a hobby and I was looking for what's next. And basically God came in and was like, this is where you're supposed to go next.
Hi, I'm Bobby, Music City Work Club, welcoming Jeff. What is up?
Man, it's good to be here. We've been talking about this for a minute.
We have been talking about it too long, and I just want to say thank you so much for accepting my invitation to become a member.
Yeah, of course, man.
The first time I met you was at this little thing called Ecstatic Dance. Long story. We don't need all the viewers to know about all that, but I was like, dude, I like you already. And it was like an instantaneous, you know, when your energy is right with another person and you just feel at home and you also don't feel like you need to like posture or anything. I felt that with you.
Yeah, I remember we kind of like lined up, like the universe put us together and had a really like deep, vulnerable conversation after knowing each other for about 3 seconds.
Yeah. And I think that's your natural instinct anyways.
Yeah, I think so.
So for anyone not knowing who you are and what you do, what do you usually do when you go through that question?
I usually look for something new inside of myself that I might want to reveal in that moment. Because I think I've been in so many networking events where that question comes up and it's just regurgitated response that, you know, just doesn't, it like loses its authenticity. Like maybe it doesn't feel authentic in the moment. So it feels like it falls flat. So if I were to answer that question now, I would say, well, my name is Jeff Zacharski and I love having deep conversations. I love having conversations with people that make a difference in their life. I made a big transition into coaching about a decade ago because I was realizing I was looking for more depth in my life. So I would say that I am a depth stimulator, a possibility igniter, a authentic unmasker of humanity, and a transformational leader.
Wow. That's so good. You know, as you're telling me that, I was thinking about all the templated scripts I have in my head when I say what I do and how annoyed I'm with myself when those templates pop up. Because you just kind of go in the autopilot. You're just like, you know, what does that person want to hear out of me?
Right.
So that's back to the masking. What does that mean for you?
Well, I mean, what it means for me is it has me look at how I want to feel in life. And I lived a lot of my life aware, but also not. And it's only in the last probably decade of my life, just realizing how automatic I was in communication and conversation and relationships, and how I would just have this certain way of conducting my life, almost to the point in which it was predictable. Like if you could sit down with me and have a conversation with me about the last 10 years of my life, if you were attuned enough, you could almost draw it out on a map. And when I started to look at why that was the case, I started realizing just how protected I was living, or just how conditioned I was living. And it was hollow, you know? And so for me, masking, like you said, is what do I need to put in front of this right now so that maybe this other person likes me? Or how do I need to present myself in a way so I don't feel any pain out of this engagement. So what I kept finding is it was all some form of inauthenticity or some sort of avoidance of truth that I might have had in a moment. So I would keep it all, I would play small. And so I think of people wearing masks, if they can identify them, it's playing at such a smaller version of who they came here to be and who they came here to become.
So what's the consequence for someone wearing a mask that you see?
I would say the consequence is a very limited life. You know, I think the consequence is not having the life that I might want, that we might want, or the consequence is, I mean, it could be even coming down to not making the kind of money that I want to make. I might live through this mask of people pleasing or over generosity or making sure everybody's okay. And so I might show up in a deal that favors everybody else and not actually in full ownership of maybe my offer or whatever I have. And so, but at that point in time, I'm doing me a disservice and I'm doing them a disservice. So there's so many consequences. And I think part of the kind of work that we've done on ourselves is having everybody understand what the consequence is for themselves, like actually being able to identify what the mask might be and what it's keeping them from experiencing in their lives.
And how does it even feel to be wearing the mask for people?
I mean, for me, for a long time, it didn't feel like anything because I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a group of humans out there that have never looked at what kind of mask that they might be wearing. So it might actually feel pretty neutral, or they might feel something, but also just relate to that as, oh, well, this is just what it's like to live. And, but when I get aware and when I'm present, like if I get out of an interaction with somebody and I'm realizing that I might be in my people pleaser, or I'm realizing that, I'm asking them so many questions because I don't like the silence that happens when I'm done talking. And so I reorient myself, or I chameleon myself into this constructed version of what I think the conversation might be. And then I just leave the conversation feeling drained.
Because it's a lot of work.
There's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work to go through the mental gymnastics to try to gauge someone's identity and try to match what I think they want to hear, especially when you're in a business setting, you're in a new friend group that somehow is a friend of another friend. You automatically go in these like automatic patterns, and the gymnastics that my mind is going through, it's exhausting.
Totally. Now imagine that doing that for a full day, and then people get to the end of the day and they're like, why am I so damn tired?
Yeah.
Well, because I've been masking.
Yeah.
You know, and I think another way to think of that, just to give people another access point, is there's a lot of conversations around like the emergence of neurodivergence in today's world, where we have people with lots of different mental and emotional constructs. And one of the things that they talk about in the neurodivergence world is the idea of masking, where masking is a coping strategy that comes online to just pretend to be in part of a conversation. But it's not so different. But at the end of the day, whether you're neurotypical or whether you're some version of neurodivergent, the idea of masking is an exhausting way of living.
I like that. Something that just made me think about, those games you used to play on your, like Grand Theft Auto is a perfect example. You're walking around this world and you walk up to someone and say, hey, what's going on? And he's like, man, this traffic out here is crazy. And then you like ask another deep question. He's like, man, this traffic is crazy. And it just says the same thing. It's like these, like the NPC characters. And I feel like the mask is kind of that.
Yeah.
And you don't really, if you walk around the world with a bunch of people with no depth, man, that feels kind of lonely. And there's lack of connection in that existence. And we create that because if I give you, man, this traffic is crazy, and I'm in that, and then you start going into your robotic thing, your NPC world, then we're just playing this surface level. And no wonder you got to go have a drink. Because that's no fun.
Right.
So before you were doing coaching, what was it for you?
Well, my history. So I've done a few pivots in my life, which is really interesting. I think a lot of people I know have been in one career and they kind of tilt a little bit, and maybe they go into something that's just adjacent. And for me, I don't know. I've lived these lives of multiple fairly hard pivots, and I don't know. Like I'm sure there's a larger pattern in my life, but like I think at the end, the big thing that I see in the pattern is that I got into something that I really loved that was for me in that moment, and then I got the end of it, and I knew I was at the end of it, but I didn't know what to do with that. And so, for me, how that looks is my relationship pattern. Like if I was in relationship with somebody and I felt that their relationship was over, but I didn't necessarily know where to go, I would just kind of stay because I didn't know to just cut it off or to step out, which actually translated into my work as well. But before I did coaching, I got into the telecom world, the startup world out in Boulder, Colorado, and just like felt that was where I was supposed to be and saw some opportunity. And I got into that world and I didn't know anybody out there. So it was kind of an interesting way of trying to get a job. And I remember being in a workshop with some guy who was speaking, and at the end of it, and I was like, that guy has something. And I don't know what it is, but I just like walked up to him and I was like, I need an internship. And this could be a very long story, but basically the answer was yes. And I came in at this super ground floor of this startup out in Colorado, and I just kept showing up, growing, and trying to figure out where I wanted to go. And I went from being the intern to this chief operating officer in 5 years. And like, that was an amazing, but then I got to the end of that because the guy that I was in business with at that point in time actually passed away. And I found myself by circumstance going, okay, well now what next? And I started going back out into the world and trying to apply for jobs. And I saw all of these positions that were out there, and they were like, oh, come in as like tech analyst 1 or senior engineer 1. And it was just like these boxes, these job descriptions that felt like cages and so the opposite of who I was. Like the playground that I play the best in is like, put me in a field, take away the fences, take away any red tape, give me a little bit of free reign, maybe a little bit of direction, and I will excel. Like I just have an entrepreneurial mindset. Like you don't have to tell me to do stuff. You don't have to train me to do stuff. Just put me in and let me roam. And so when I was trying to get back into the tech job market, I was trying to find ways into these companies, but I didn't fit the mold. And so I spent about a year trying to find that. And then I found this one company. And I'm just actually putting this together. I didn't mean to use the metaphor that I just used, but the company's name was Open Range. And I'm just now putting together. I've never actually strung that together in this moment, but there was this job description that was just ambiguous enough that it felt like it was a field that I could go play in. So I tried to find my way into that company every way I could possibly go, in emails, applications, phone calls. And in like 7 months, I was trying to get into this company and I was still getting zero feedback. And then finally one day I was like, you know what? What's the thing that I haven't done? What's the thing that feels risky? What's the thing that's going to have me maybe actually put me in front of somebody so they're going to tell me no? And then I'm going to feel that rejection. And I just got up one morning, I grabbed a coffee, I put on a suit, I drove down, I walked through the front door, and I'm really great with receptionists. I don't have any idea why that is in my DNA, but I'm really great, but I had no idea. So I walked in and I had this conversation with this woman and we just connected, kind of like you and I did when we were in the ecstatic dance situation. And we just kind of dropped in and connected real quick and made a great friend, and then found out that she was actually the wife of the COO. So she stood up and she walked back and got him, and he walked over to the manager or to the VP that had been not really dodging my calls, but not been prioritizing my application. And then he came up and had a conversation with me. mean, fast forward, I went through like 13 interviews with that company. It was insane, and then got the job. So I kind of have this history of doing that kind of thing. It's like making my own opportunity, how I might think about it. But that ran its course. I saw that startup through. I was one of the I guess the frontiers of that open range company, and actually ended up having to help close it down because we had some pretty big stuff going in FCC regulations and all that kind of stuff, some more technical stuff we don't have to talk about here. But I got this hit towards the end of that I was done. And I had no idea with where I was going next. And so I just kind of I started following my yeses. And I had a buddy who called me and he said, "Hey, come out to Los Angeles. Like I haven't seen you in a while." And I was like, "This is weird. We haven't talked since we were 20. And again, following my yeses. So I went out to see him, and we were supposed to hang out the entire time. He had to be in the recording studio, and he's like, just come along. But you gotta be cool. Like, I'm taking you into a recording studio in LA. Like, you can't be starstruck. You got to be cool, all this kind of stuff." And he brought me in, and I got to tell you, man, I walked into that studio and I felt like God visited me. Mm-hmm. And I got this click, because I'd always been doing music as a hobby, and I was looking for what's next. And basically God came in and was like, "This is where you're supposed to go next." So I did that. So I and so it'd be a really long story, but like, I went back to Colorado. I put in my term. I left and all that kind of stuff. And I went to LA, pivoting from startup telecom into music in LA at the age of 33, which is like, I think of people in conversations that I hear a lot, and they're talking about, well, it might be too late in life, or I'm 40 years old. Can I possibly take a risk on my idea? Right. And I've done that several times, and not to say that like I'm better than anybody else from doing that, but like, I think there's an opportunity for people to seize an opportunity and be willing to take a risk in creating their life. So I did music for about 10 years. I got about 8 years into that, and I found myself in the same spot. I found myself kind of burnt out by the machine of music in Nashville, where it became about, it started in becoming about creating and being in the music and just sharing my heart. And where it got to by being in the machine of Nashville came into, well, I got to write that next song so I get that next hit, or I got to produce that next album to get that next paycheck. And it just lost its soul. Yeah. So I found myself in that same position, which, fast forwarding a little bit, brought me into working with a coach, where I started to realize that there is actually a different kind of impact that a human can have on another person. And that lit me up. Yeah. And that's where I've been for the last decade.
So to make that transition, these three little pivots that you navigated, when did you know that, man, this coaching thing is a possibility?
I felt it was a possibility after my first conversation that I had with a coach. I had never been in a conversation around what was actually possible for my life. It was a completely new frame for me. I had gotten some clarity from these previous pivots, and I decided to take a risk, but I never was able to do it from a place of dreaming as to what the future could be. And when I got into that conversation, it felt like it was a possibility, but now I'm walking through the streets with a possibility. And again, had no direction as to where to go. And then 2 weeks later, I'm out on a date with my now wife, and we were in this conversation, and she's like, "Well, tell me about your vision. Tell me about what you want for your life." And again, I'm just like, what are these questions? Like, I've never been on a date where on the first date, somebody's asking me those kinds of questions. So I got really curious about it. And when I started talking about the idea of being a coach, she's like, "Well, that's funny. That's what I do. And if that's what you're interested in, there's a coaching organization out in New York, and you could come out and check it out. And if you feel like this could be a path, like, you could choose into it." And I was just mind blown at how all of these dominoes got set up for me.
It's so funny is listening to this is, I think that is, I'm surprised more I'm sure a lot of women do this, but what a smart thing to talk about in the very first date.
Right?
I remember I was at a friend's house over for dinner, and this couple had been together for about a year. And this girl went around the room and was like, okay, what's your vision? And she goes around the room, and everybody had a little statement, and she gets to her boyfriend, and she goes, what about your vision? I don't know. They were broke up in 2 days. and what I think is really telling, because where are you going if you don't have anywhere to go? I mean, I don't know about you, but my vision has been helpful carrying me forward. And was that one of the first questions you've ever been asked about your vision, or had it been happening before? Or
no, I think that was the most. We probably got to it in a little bit of a roundabout way in some of my coaching conversations with my coach at that time, but it was the first time somebody just walked through my front door and presented me with that question.
So when you're doing your practice with a new coaching client, for instance, who is your ideal client that you're navigating a relationship with?
It's evolved over time. I think in becoming a coach, I just really wanted to work with anybody. Like I wanted to help everybody, and I got really burnt out in doing that. And so I had to be, people talk about niching down and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's this marketing way of saying you got to pick your people. But if I remove the lens of it being about marketing, it's actually about my energy and what excites me. And if it's exciting to me and it's about the expansion of my energy, then what I can give to any individual is amplified. So for me, the people that light me up are the people that have wild and audacious visions, because it means that we're in a conversation around something expansive. Because there's this saying that I have that is a person without a vision will always return to their past. And so I find that if we don't have a vision to actually lean into and expand into, then we're just talking about the daily drama. We're just talking about the firefighting or the current circumstances there. And it's not that that's not important or valuable, but if that's all we're ever talking about and we're never looking at how that actually moves us towards a bigger vision, then in a year, things are going to look exactly the same. So for people, I'm interested in working with people that are about growth. Like they have to have a growth mindset. They have to be coachable. That's really important. But also they have to see something, believe something, or at the very least want something. Because if they can't see it, but they still want it, we can get there.
I like that. Well, this is a crazy thought that I had in my head, because often I think that, we are here for deeper reasons beyond that we could ever really imagine. And is it possible that you are here specifically to touch a few people that are very uniquely destined for something very large, but you're like the key ingredient, and somehow, you have this certain type of skill that you're developing for the certain type of individual, this driven person who has these unique skills and abilities that are there on the surface but not unlocked. They're like the toggle switch isn't quite working yet, right. And you can come in there, activate a few new neurons that they had not known that were there, and then suddenly they are unlocked in this other level. And to me, that's a high. To help someone see that. I get high on other people winning, and I know you get high on other people winning. But for you, how do you know and indicate in your own body when you're with someone that is the wrong fit? Because that's a struggle that I have sometimes, because, I'll be working with someone and they're just something misaligned. And for me, it shows up with, if all the language is about status or show or, a showy type of entrepreneur, and not like a purpose-driven entrepreneur with, I want them to make and have an abundant life and be able to afford lots of nice things. I'm all game for that. I'm not discounting that. But when you can find that there's a deeper reason of yearning that they do it for, then I'm like, okay. And as long as I'm in alignment with whatever that is, I'm 100% go.
Yeah.
How do you know when that's not in line? Is there a trigger that you can tell?
I mean, it's a full body feeling, you know, but I think there's two sides to it. So one is I could just say, well, it's all over there. It's all with the person that I'm talking to. And I could project that onto them. But I think for me, the important thing to look at is, well, what is this feeling? What is it actually bringing inside of me? What are they mirroring back to me? Because what might also be in the way of me coaching them is my inability or unwillingness to look at my own shit. And so I might see somebody that is about status or something like that. And if I don't actually holistically look at where that is in me, I'm enrolled in whatever context or whatever story they're in. So before I even look on that side of the street, I always have to get clear as to what part of what I'm experiencing in them, it lives inside of me.
Oh, wow.
And so that I can understand where I would speak through that or where I would make it wrong on their side that exists in them. You know, so for me, it's about getting to a place of authentic connection first. And even in some of those types of people, I can shift that. Because, and it's not about moving them into a place that's different than where they're at, but it is, like you're saying, this unlock, this energetic imprint or something that new that gets to come alive in them, or get them connected to something different that will massively amplify the thing that they're bringing. So for me, one of the ways that I'll do that is we'll be in a conversation about the vision and we get clear, and maybe it sounds really heady, or it sounds very statusy or very ego. But then I look at connecting, well, you have this vision for your life. How does that connect to your vision for the world? And in connecting to the vision for the world, I might actually then discover some threads that were not initially available in the conversation that help me connect to their heart and how they actually want to see the world be different. Now, it doesn't mean that that's always available. So in certain cases, there might just be people that don't fully align with me. And I think where I've gotten to in my coaching career is that's okay. I don't have to be the person for everybody, although I very much carry a mask that's this desire to be needed. And so, of course, I want to help everybody. I want to pour everything out. I want to be generous to everybody. But there's a lot of discernment in those conversations.
So what is your vision?
My vision?
Yeah.
My vision for the world is a healed world. It's a vision of the world where people live 100% without their masks, so they can experience the depth and the richness of life and their relationships, their creations, their families. You know, I really see and feel a future for this world that feels way better than the one that we're operating in right now. The one that is not overcome by dominance and power and separation, but actually creates unification and love and connection.
But specifically for you, what does that look like?
In my world?
Yeah. How does that translate into Jeff's world?
It shows up in every interaction that I have. I mean, I think it can feel a little overwhelming if I feel the grandioseness of that vision and then look at the world, and I think I could find myself in a pretty disempowered place because I got a lot of evidence out there that says the world isn't going that way. But the evidence that I choose to look for is, who do I get to be in every conversation? Who do I get to be in every interaction? What are the things that I'm building that is going to amplify what I believe and start to magnetize the types of relationships that I have so that my lived experience matches my vision? Because if my lived experience matches my vision, then the kind of energy that I'm putting out into the world is in contribution and not in subtraction.
I feel that. Now, I know you do a lot of men's retreats. Talk a little bit about what that looks like for people.
I like to get people really uncomfortable. I think that's the foundation of it. That's one of the components of it. But the big thing that I've learned over the years, and I love coaching people in the States, I love being on Zoom, and I love all of that. But like the juice for me and the richness really happens in person. And I know you talk a lot about that too. That's part of the reason for this club even existing, is to get people together, because something different happens when you can get people together. So that's definitely one component of it, bringing men together. Most of them have never met each other. Most of them don't even really truly know what the experience is for themselves, but they're seeking something different, or they're seeking something bigger or more profound. And what I found is that doing events here in the States, they're great, but there's so much noise here in the US. There's so much noise. There's so much, like I get back from Costa Rica and I walk in and there's billboards and lights and like everything is trying to send me some sort of programming. And so the amount of work that I have to do to consciously be like, no thanks. But like they count, just like we're talking about the mass conversations, the amount of stuff that I have to do just to be in my being here in the US is insane. So what I do is I take people to remote parts of the world so they can get back to the harmonious feeling of what it actually just naturally feels like to be in their state of being. Mm-hmm. And so we take people to Costa Rica, we take people to Norway, to Peru, to Guatemala, to all of these places that some that are completely off the grid, but at the very least, they're away from the noise. Mm-hmm. And then we spend time over the week. There's a bunch of transformational exercises and stuff that we take to. Sometimes we'll bring in some medicine work, stuff like that. But people get to put the reps in and they get to live for a week. Their entire week's lived experience is actually in their true state. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we look at, well, if this is true, what is the impact on your environment back in the States? How do we bring more of what's available here back to your life? And so it's this constant exposure to the natural state of one's being, and then the intentional integration. And then the missing piece is always doing that in community. Because I don't know if it's like this for you, but if I can be out of community for even a moment, a little bit out of sight, out of mind, I can slip into my old patterns, I can fall into the drift, stuff like that. But if I stay connected with like-minded people, if I stay connected with people that have a shared experience with me, and I can stay connected to people who know who I am, now I have accountability. And if I have accountability, it's not just up to me to hold this frequency on my own. It is up to me. But even us being in this conversation, we have shared ways of operating in the world. And I can guarantee that if any of us asked each other for any accountability around something, that we would hold each other to that standard. 100%. And I think I don't think that fully exists in the world. I think people are slightly allergic to accountability. But in this case, it's about being accountable to being the fullest extent of who you are, because I've seen it. And I know what you're committed to, and I know your vision for the world, and I want that vision for you just as bad as you do. So why don't we hold it together?
Yeah, I love that. And I know you've seen some massive transformation, because you're taking someone on an altered state out of country, which is wild in itself. And for most of these people, they've never been around men who are vulnerable and open the door to storytelling, which opens the door to your own story receiving, to understand what the story was in the past. It wasn't true in the first place. And now you got to navigate understanding that story is not true. And then how do you go forward? And so
what a cluster.
Yeah, it is a cluster. And don't you got to break a little bit before you break out? I mean, there's a little bit of that, isn't there?
There is. And I think it's important, because growth happens in discomfort. If we just live our lives inside of our comfort zone, just like the thing I said at the beginning of this is like, you can predict where the life is going to go. If I live my life from comfort, if you live your life from comfort, I can say in 6 months, we're going to be in the same place. 100%. So yes, it does require to step into something that feels uncomfortable. Maybe it is choosing to a retreat. Maybe it's coming to the club, and maybe for the first time stepping out of having a home office and stepping out of that comfort, like being around people. Like there's so many ways to do this. Maybe it's hiring your coach for the first time. Maybe it's paying money to invest in yourself. Like we live in this medical model where people are like, well, I'll pay money to go to the doctor. Well, some people avoid the doctor like a plague, but oh wait, I'll pay for somebody else. I'll pay for that dinner for somebody else, but you want me to, wait, I have to spend money to invest and work on myself over a year. I remember the first time that I did that. When I joined the coaching program, it was $18,000 for a year, and I didn't have that. And it was in New York, and I lived in Nashville. There were so many things in that moment that were like, yeah, bro, don't do this. But I felt the possibility. I felt the path, even though I didn't see it fully yet. I had to trust to lean in. And I think that's one of the things that we really stand for people, and also what you stand for in the club is like, trust your vision and fully step into it and get supported so that you're not doing it on your own. I think so many people can be this solo-minded entrepreneur where they come to the co-working and they just put their headphones on and they all to it. But like, there's so much more of value here to be getting supported, to be joining community-oriented events. And like, that is what you're doing. You're not just providing a desk for someone to come put their headphones on, and while it's available, you're providing a multi-dimensional, expansive experience for people to come into the fullest state of who they are so that what they want in their life becomes possible.
Yeah, that's so well said. Now, what have you noticed since you've moved from working primarily from your home to our space?
Way less distraction, way more focus. I have found myself in some seemingly serendipitous conversations in hallways, grabbing coffee, I'm making sure that when I'm here, I'm not closed. A lot of the progress that I've made in my life has been by being open and by saying yes. So even if I'm like seeing somebody across the room and I'm like, maybe I'm reading a book by its cover and I'm like, I don't really know. I'm open. And I'm not necessarily forcing anything, but as a result of being open, I've made so many more connections. There's been some of these morning events. I've gotten referrals. I've gotten people saying, oh, well, do you know this person? Or have you heard about their vision? And all of a sudden I'm tapped into somebody else's genius. Yeah. And now I'm like, oh, well, that's not for me. But that one thing you said was, and now that I got that insight from this conversation, how does that influence what I'm up to? So continuously staying aware with every interaction that I've been in has been really transformational. And then there's the cold plunge, which is like stupid and awesome at the same time. But it's a real gift for me because I cold plunge often. I sauna often. I try to get to the gym as much as possible. But what I found is I get up in the morning at 6 a.m. and I drive 30 minutes and I try to get friends together. And then I work out and I feel great. But then I got to get back in traffic and then I get home and then I get ready and I have to get ready for work. And now I just come here and I get here at 6:30, 6:45. And if I'm really feeling brave, I'll jump in the cold plunge. And if my soul doesn't leave my body, I'll stay in for 3 minutes and then I get out and then I work out and then I rinse and I'm at a desk and I'm in the state. Yeah. There's no transition here. So to me, that is some of the biggest gift that is available at this club that I have not experienced anywhere else.
I like the way you said that because there is a transition going to the gym, going home, changing, getting in the car, going, and then because I get a lot of aha moments in that state of exercise, and I got this idea, and it's like now you can just go after it right away, which for a lot of people, when you find the spark of inspiration, you better lock in, because in the music business that those sparks, they don't last long, and it's easily one little flash of distraction, and where was that? How do I get that back? Yeah,
it's like writing the whole song except for the second verse, and then coming back a week later to try and tap into the second verse, and now it's a super heady conversation because it's like, well, I got to make this second verse fit, but what I was feeling on the day when we wrote everything else, it's massively different. I think what you're pointing to is shortening the amount of time between inspiration and application. And I think a lot of people that continuously work with me as a coach, like that is part of our process. It's taking, well, this is the thing that I want, and getting into urgent application in the next 24 to 48 hours. One, because it's still potently in your system. Possibility has a half-life. And so after 48 hours, the possibility that one was feeling 2 days ago isn't as potent, which is also really important when people are considering hiring a coach, because what they feel in that moment, both the tension of wanting to hire a coach and also the fear of, oh, I'm not sure how I'm going to make this happen, but also the connection to the possibility, it has a half-life. Give yourself 72 hours and now you're going to be right back at the place that you were. So if you want to get back into a conversation around possibility, you're going to have to actually get back in that conversation. You can't make the decision from the energy that you had before because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It dissipated.
Yeah. And you know what I love too is, and I've seen you have friends over to work out with, and to me, that is the way to do your day, working out with someone else. And when the conversation is about depth, about what are you working on while we're working out, because what you're working on, I have something in my bag of tricks that could help, or a connection, or it may be just like, dude, you're stuck. It's, and I'm stuck, I'm stuck half the time. The whole reason I was inspired to do this is to scratch my own itch. This is the reason I do the decision experience, not because I'm an expert at making decisions. No, I'm quite the opposite. I'm built the thing that I need the most work on. And it's why I'm also a coach, because I need coaches in my life, and I want to provide that service for others. And also it helps me elevate, just like you do. It's, I don't want us to have a place for coffee only, Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We have great coffee. We have a great place to do it, and quiet and distraction free. But when you add the fact that we could go sit in a sauna together and do the biocharger, or, just jam on new ideas on a whiteboard with some music playing, well, I don't know what else I want to do.
Why would I be anywhere else?
Why would I be anywhere else?
Yeah.
So tell me this, how would one find you and get in contact with you?
So my website is sealevel.coach, SEALEVEL.coach. And I think it's currently doing a reboot, but it'll be back up today. So don't worry. If you're listening to this, if you go once and it's not there, it'll be back. Sorry for the breakdown on that. But yeah, sealevel.coach is the best place to go. I also have jz.coach, which is the sealevel.coach points more towards the founders, executives, operators, stuff like that. The jz.coach is more of my personal representation, I guess, for me, has some of the access to the transformational retreats that we run in different countries. They're kind of working on finding they're merging together, but right now they stay separate.
Jeff, thanks so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. This is great.
So listen, if you're in Nashville, you're an entrepreneur, and you're also driven, I think there's two things. There's a business owner who's just going through the motions of his business, maybe not even want to grow. That is not who we're looking for. We're looking for driven entrepreneurs that want to go to another level, have a vision for their lives, but they don't want to do it alone. And you're sitting in at your house, or maybe sitting in a corporate office, and you're like, gosh, there's got to be some other people that I can hang out with that inspire me, that I can inspire also and be in community. Maybe you should visit Music City Work Club. You can see us online at musiccityworkclub.com. I'd like to mention our events, though. We have a couple of signature events that I want to invite you to. One is Breakthrough in Eggs, a 2-hour breakfast experience where we go deep. We go super deep. We did parts work with entrepreneurs. We've done some deep work in helping people see those limiting beliefs that could be holding you back. That is once a month. We also have the Nashville Business Owner Mastermind. It's a mouthful, I know, but it is for business owners who want to connect with others. We want to be in a space where there's support and help. I am an EOS implementer. I help organizations grow and scale. So we use the foundational tools of EOS, running the Mastermind specifically to help you with a major challenge by using storytelling. Last but not least, the decision experience every other Sunday here in the club, where we help you make a radical decision that would radically change your life. And that is every other Sunday, 10:30 to 12. Thanks for watching, and talk to you later.